Jesus and big Jesus.
Little Jesus, big Jesus.
Whatever that note sound is.
That's not it.
That's not it. Do you believe in God? It's a binary question that's often posed at the worst times. In hospital waiting rooms, at your boyfriend's parents' house on a Sunday afternoon, or when you're a little too tipsy after the third date. But how do you make sense of that question in your everyday life? This is the Manque Podcast, and I'm Monica, here with Mary.
Hello.
We are the people behind Manque, the online culture magazine. This is episode 1, entitled The Cat's Pajamas, because, appropriately, that's what we're both wearing right now. Our episodes are going to match our monthly editorial theme, and this month that theme is higher power. For this week, that means that we're going to jump right in and talk about something very light, how we make sense of the idea of God. So for me, I grew up in an evangelical household. It was very conservative. It was sort of the caricature of how we conceptualize the religious South, except for the first 15 years of my life, I lived in Massachusetts, which is where I live now. And when I was growing up, religion was not a part of life. It essentially was life. Like, there was no separation between church and home, relationships, or anything like that. Our religion was completely enfolded in everything that we did, every thought that we had, every decision we made in and out of the house was always supposed to come back to our version of Christianity. And I was pretty devout, enthusiastically devout even, up until about a year into college, when I sort of fell into the cliche that a lot of people fall into, that my family was afraid I would fall into, where I went away to a liberal arts school in Boston, which my family thought was a very liberal area, and I started taking philosophy classes, and I started taking political science classes, and more advanced literature classes, which kind of promotes conversations that overlap with the other two. And I started to question my morals, my stance on a lot of political issues that were completely one and the same with my religious upbringing. So, abortion and LGBTQ rights. And I started to realize that what I believed intellectually based on those classes was completely at odds with the way that I was raised, and I couldn't make sense of those two conflicting things. And I left the church essentially and considered myself basically an atheist for a while, but that label never really felt right. And now that I'm a few years beyond that and looking at starting a marriage and a family, and I'm thinking about the big questions like how would I want to raise my kids, I found myself very much in a gray area where I don't think that I'm no longer angry at religion, and I'm no longer as angry at the church as I was when I was younger. And I'm trying to decide how I feel. So like I said, in that gray area.
And I think for myself, I was raised probably the most opposite that you could be from Monica, where when Monica and I talk about these things, I hear a lot of like these crazy stories from her upbringing that I can't even believe were real, because my family didn't go to church. I was Catholic, but went to church for like a funeral in the 5th grade, and I made my first communion, and I went to like church for that, and that was really one of the first times that I like remember even going to church. And shortly after that, because I had a really super creepy CCD teacher that like tried to stalk me and my mom.
Oh God. Oh God.
And we stopped going after that. So that was sort of the end of my religious experience until I was older, and like my mom got really into like Christianity, and she still goes to church now. She goes to like a non-denominational Christian church that meets in like the cafeteria of my high school.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a brand.
Yeah, they like sing songs and it's really cool. I've gone, like, don't really consider myself religious, but at the same time I do really struggle with like religion and like what does it all mean?
Yeah. How do you make sense of being in a different place with your conception of religion and God than your family? Because you see them a lot more often than I see my family. So I deal with this, but not in the same way.
I think I don't know. That's a good question.
Like, do you feel comfortable when you go to church with your family, or does it feel kind of like you're doing this weird performance?
It is a bit of a weird performance, especially because, and I know I was talking about this before, but I studied abroad in Rome, which is like super, super religious.
How old were you?
I was 20 when I studied abroad, and around this same time was when my mom started going to church. And when I made this decision to go abroad, it was not for any reason other than like I wanted to study abroad. They had the longest summer study abroad program, and I had taken an Italian class the semester before. And it never crossed my mind that Rome is like the epicenter of Catholicism.
Like, not once. You didn't like think like the Vatican's on my list of things to do.
No.
Wow.
No, my boyfriend at the time's family had been to Rome, and like what was crossing my mind the most was like this gelato place that like my boyfriend's mom wanted me to go to.
Oh my God, I love that. That is like, you can't write that.
Yeah, no. And like I knew like the Vatican, but like it didn't like cross my mind that was like that all of Rome was like as religious as the Vatican. Like,
is it? I've never been.
Yes.
Everyone is very
Everyone,
Catholic.
yes.
Like more than Boston, where everyone's Catholic.
Yeah. So one time, my friend and I went out one night, like on a Saturday night, and we were like, you know, like we had on like these like of the times, the like bodycon skirt and like crop top.
Yep.
And we stayed at my friend's house and then like walked back to my like apartment in the morning. Mm-hmm. And it was probably like 10 o'clock when we were walking back. Women were screaming.
What?
Screaming and
like,
covering their children's eyes.
What? Wait, what time was this?
Sunday morning.
What time?
At 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Oh my God.
So like church time. So everyone's like going to church, and like when you go to a church in Rome, you need to have your shoulders covered. Some women cover their heads. Like, you have to have your knees and shoulders have to be covered. Like, very conservative dress, very seriously taken. At this point, also, I had been there for a while, and I had, like, been to some masses just because it was, like, I was just curious about
Right.
it.
I would, too, yeah.
And it's super conservative and super serious. Yeah, women were, like yelling at us, screaming, like,
oh my word.
Like, it was the most over dramatic thing I had ever seen in my life, and me and my friend Brittany were like
oh Lord.
We paid $20 to take a cab like 4 blocks.
Oh my gosh, because you couldn't handle the harassment.
Because we were so embarrassed. Yeah.
That is absolutely wild.
Yeah. But so that really, I think, like, so once I got to Rome and I was talking to my mom about like how religious it was, I think she sort of thought that I was as religious as she was. And when I came back, we did start going to church together more.
So you think that she thought that you had like a religious experience?
To some extent, yeah. And I also like, Monica and I went to the same college. We went to a Catholic college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it just like, as she was like finding her way with her religion, which like for her was like a very like strong sense of community and like something that was really important for like her and like her spirituality, that like I think like I like went down that path with her for like a short time, like because it was like almost like a bonding experience for us to do together, even though I was more separate from it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, for so many reasons. One being that you said that she switched to a non-denominational church later on in life, so she left the Catholic Church?
No, my mom was actually never raised Catholic at all.
Oh, okay.
My dad was.
Oh, okay. So that's where that came in for you.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we had really no religious exposure other than like celebrating Christmas, which was
Okay.
like much more about like getting gifts
Yeah.
for my entire life. Again, like the only time that I ever went to church as a child and young adult, like until I was like 20, 21, was for like death related things.
Wow. I only went to one funeral growing up, and actually, notably, that was the first and only time I went to like a Catholic service. To my family on my dad's side is from the Midwest, and except for my grandfather, everyone was raised Catholic in my family. So when my grandmother's father died, I was really lucky that I grew up like knowing all four of my great grandparents on my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
And so my great grandfather died, and he was the first person in my family to die where I was old enough to go to the funeral, essentially. And so I went out to Indiana with my whole family, and we went to the funeral, which was at this giant cathedral that was walking distance from where they lived. It was like very like Depression era sort of setup. Like they lived in this small house that I believe that they owned that was a couple blocks away from this giant church that like everyone in the neighborhood went to, is my understanding. And my main memory of that day, and I've like told the story kind of to like a cliched amount, is that I just got so sick from the incense that was being scattered about. And that was like my impression of like what it meant to be in the Catholic Church, was like sort of incomprehensible and like incense. Like there were a lot of scents. I was raised in like the version of Christianity where we were taught that Catholicism was like evil and demented. Mm-hmm. And it was like a miracle that my family found the other side of it. That's specifically, that's how my dad framed it, but it was sort of bolstered by everyone else too, who was evangelical, when all the evangelicalism actually, and it derived from my dad's side of the family, but that's sort of in the weeds. But
what is like the main difference between evangelical and Christian, or Catholic rather?
Well, I suppose it goes back to Luther, Martin Luther,
mm-hmm.
the OG. And I would be remiss if I pretended to be a complete expert on this, but my general impression has been that Martin Luther attempted to democratize access to the holy texts, in the sense that the Catholic Church was charging people indulgences, and so they were collecting money from people and telling them that if they paid the fee to the church that they could get their loved ones out of limbo. So this was like a point of like serious corruption that was going on, and Martin Luther did his like, he nailed his theses to the wall and believed that people should be able to, the Bible should be printed essentially in languages that people can understand, mm-hmm. and that they should be able to read it and interpret it on their own. And I think that was like the original divide. But nowadays, I think the difference is that Catholicism is so old. So that's an important thing to consider when you're comparing it to Protestantism, which is relatively new. So Catholicism to me is a version of Christianity that is much more reliant on procedure and religion with like a capital R, which was very frowned upon in the Protestant churches that I was growing up in. And even calling them Protestant was like, some people would disagree when I called them Protestant. It's sort of like just easier to say that than to say like non-denominational / evangelical, like sub-sect. But basically, like, we don't believe in saints. I say we, I don't even know if I even count in that we anymore, but like, we don't believe in saints. We don't believe in the Pope. We don't believe in like Mary as a deity. Mm-hmm. For us, it's about your relationship with Jesus, which is the phrase that you hear all the time. And it's so funny to say out loud, and it's so funny, but like, it is literally like, that is what it is. It's like, you have a personal relationship with Christ, and your job is to essentially follow the Bible fairly literally, but of course not completely literally. And I say, of course, that was sort of like a slap because they'll take some things literally, the churches that I've always grown up in, but like, they pick and choose. In any event, so you kind of follow it literally, and you have like a personal relationship with Christ. And so like you took your first communion, right? So that was supposed to represent what? Do you have any idea?
Oh, yes. And so I do remember this. So before you can receive your first communion in Catholicism, you have to first repent your sins. Mm-hmm. So 8-year-old me.
You have to literally name them?
You have to go to confession. And you have to sit.
That always fascinated me, confession.
You have to sit with a priest and you have to profess a sin. And I was 8 years old and I was like, I have never done anything wrong in my life. I was like such a goody two shoes.
Sorry, I should just go to heaven.
I got sent home from school for getting like a 90 on my spelling test because I was crying so hard because I was so upset at myself for not being like perfect.
This is like the answer in the job interview where you're like, I'm just a perfectionist. That's my biggest flaw. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm sorry for like fighting with my sister and like sometimes we would like argue over like Barbie dolls. And, like, the priest was literally like, I will ask God for his forgiveness. Like, instead of telling me, like, that's not a sin. Like, you're fine. You're 8. Like, yes, we must do this. Now you can go to heaven again.
Oh, my God.
And you're supposed to do that every week or something.
Yeah, I don't.
And, like, I understand for people who, like, do that. It was just crazy for me at 8 years old to be expected to, like, have sinned.
I mean, that's interesting because I was definitely raised with the idea that like you are a sinner and you've probably been sinning. You have been sinning since like day one. I actually remember one time I got into an argument with my dad and he was sort of like the purveyor of religion in my household. And I was like, how could a newborn baby sin? And my dad would just be like, you were born into sin. Everyone was born into sin. And I was so caught up on this and I was probably like the same age as you were when you like got your first communion. And I was like, but a baby can't sin. What are you saying? What did the baby like? That doesn't make any sense. How are you born into sin? Which is interesting because in Catholicism, if a baby dies, they like go to limbo, right? Like I think that's where they go.
Yeah, honestly, most of my knowledge from like being able to speak about this would be from that like horror movie Witch, where like the baby died that hadn't been like given its communion. Or baptized. It hadn't been baptized, excuse me. And they said, like, he went to hell.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was not baptized. That's a huge difference between Catholicism and Protestantism, is that you need to make the decision to be baptized. It is something you choose to do at any point in your life. And people do it at varying times. I have a cousin, she got baptized. She's like 12, and she got baptized like a year or two ago. And it was around twice. But I didn't. My grandmother started kind of asking me if I was going to be when I was a teenager, and I felt kind of uncomfortable with it for many reasons. I don't know what it's like to have your first communion, but I would imagine that can be a lot of uncomfortable attention on you when you're like, what, 11, 12?
You're 8.
8? Oh my gosh. Wow, I was way off there. I guess the difference in theory, like the neat difference, is just the fact that Protestants believe that access to the Bible and religion should be a little bit more equitable among the flock, I guess. Like we do have pastors and all of that kind of stuff, but
I didn't realize that Protestant and evangelical were related, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I knew about like the Martin Luther thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember when I was attending the church that I more or less grew up in, that my grandparents went to and my parents went to intermittently. I was in kids choir, and there was a girl who was a year older than me, and she was talking to someone, I don't know, my age. And someone my age had said something to the effect of like, I tell people that we're Protestant. And this older girl, her name I think was Nicole, she was like, you shouldn't say that because we're not technically Protestant. We're non-denominational. And I always sort of clung to that because I was like, okay, we're not Protestant. And I guess that's true. Like, that's tricky. It is tricky because I feel like the mother label is Protestantism, even if people who adhere to it don't want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in any event, that was a very long-winded attempt to explicate the differences. But I mean, it is important. It's funny. Nate and I have like a bit where he was raised Catholic and I was raised Protestant, and we make fun of the divide all the time to a point that's probably offensive to some people, but it's always like, you dirty Catholic, you dirty Protestant, like criticizing each other for our conceptions of how religion functions. So your parents got into it when you were so much older. Do you feel like pressured to accept their religion?
I don't think there's ever been a pressure because I don't think it's ever bothered me.
That's a good answer. For me, I try to avoid it in detail a lot of the time because it's an awkward conversation. I mean, with my family, and when I say my family in this context, I'm really talking about my dad's side of the family who were like, I called my dad the purveyor of religion in my household, but it was his side of the family that was the purveyor of like religion as like integral to everyday life. It's tricky because for them, it really is a life or death issue. And that's not to say it isn't or that it shouldn't be, but it makes it hard to talk about because you can't really have a nuanced conversation when someone who loves you is afraid that you're going to go to hell if you don't believe what they believe. I have to respect the fact that that actually does come from like a point of love, which is something that I did not understand when I was like 20, when I was like pushing myself really hard away from the church. I was like, don't try to subjugate me. Like, don't try to control me. Your religion is just made up on a bunch of bigoted ideologies. So that's like super tricky. But I guess like what we're trying to get at here though is that we both had these experiences, but we're both kind of in this middle ground. Like, I don't consider myself an atheist. Do you?
I would consider myself more, I think, like, I always like hear the word agnostic, but don't quite. I don't feel like I could explain what it means, so I don't even want to say it.
My understanding has always been that agnosticism is you believe in a higher power, but you don't know what it would be or what it looks like. Like you think that there's something out there, but you don't want to call it like God with a capital G, like in the Western sense.
Yeah, and even that I'm on the fence about, I feel.
What do you mean?
I just feel like I struggle to believe with like all of the like bad in the world that there would be like any kind of like benevolent God, and that like I personally find like religion more as like a sore spot for me and like what I like perceive happening in the world rather than like a place of comfort where like many people use religion as like a source of like prayer or hope or inspiration. Like I find it to be like a huge bummer. Like there may be like some kind of like potential for divine intervention that like is doing nothing to intervene in a positive way.
Are you saying that you think that whatever higher being there is like getting off on the pain?
If there were to be one, I just feel like yeah, maybe, but I just feel, yeah, if there was someone, then like how could they be allowing this to happen?
Yeah, that's a really common refrain. And so the answer to that when I was growing up was always that it's God's plan and that like you don't understand why this bad thing is happening now, but it's happening for a reason. Because I mean, like we were like literally trained like in talking points, like what are the answers to these questions? Because at the end of the day, our goal was really to like create as many Christians as possible. I don't think I ever like did that with anyone, but I like that was what we were. So it was like always have an answer for that. So that would have been the answer. And my answer now to that question, I have no idea. I guess it kind of is just like another form of that exact answer. It's like I can't begin to know why things happen.
I took like a Christianity in ancient Rome course, which was really interesting. And I learned a few different things. One of the most interesting things that I learned is that the King of the Jews sign that was above the cross is still real. They have it. They also supposedly have like cue the wine. They have that supposedly. I've seen it. It's cool.
Supposedly I've seen it. That's a funny thing to
I've
say.
seen it, but it's like always hard to know, like, did someone just happen to make that around the same time?
The fact that they even have that on display blows my mind. I have never heard that before.
Yeah, it's like at a church in Rome.
That is absolutely wild.
Like a little bit outside of Rome, like on like the Appian Way or whatever.
Something I wish that I knew more about was the very first years of the church. Because that turned into the Catholic Church.
Yeah, so like after Jesus died.
I don't know why that's so funny.
That like Peter became the first pope.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so Peter was the first pope.
Wow. Jeez. Louise.
And he was the pope, and he was married.
Wow.
Yes. And so they still have part of like the original St. Peter's Basilica, which is now
I never realized that St. Peter was Peter, like the Apostle Peter.
Yes.
Wow.
So St. Peter is the apostle. So St. Peter's Basilica is Vatican City.
Wow. I did not know that.
And underneath, like, the current day St. Peter's Basilica, which is, like, primarily, I forget who is the person who designed that, but there's, like, a Michelangelo, like, La Pieta, which is, like, Mary holding Jesus is there, and, like, some other, like, really famous statues. Underneath that, because Rome has been built on top of ruins, you can, like, go into the basement of the church, and the original St. Peter's Basilica still parts of it are still there.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I guess like I knew St. Peter's Basilica was in Vatican, but I had no conception of what that even meant. Because Peter is just like a biblical name. So I was like, oh, that could be literally anyone.
Yeah. No, it's really unclear. Like we're not giving a lot of descriptor words when I know like 80 Peters.
You're right. I have a cousin Peter.
I do too.
Hey, cousins Peter.
Yeah. And an Uncle Peter.
Oh, no.
We call cousin Peter Little Peter.
That's the most, like, New England thing I've ever heard.
Big Peter and Little Peter.
Yeah.
My dad's Little Paul.
Oh.
His dad is Big Paul.
Oh, my gosh.
It's very New England.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, yeah. So, Peter was married. All of the popes after Peter were married. And Christianity was really about, like, helping others. It was like a small group of people. They were really heavily persecuted, and it was like the poor were primarily religious with hopes of like getting to heaven.
Okay.
And Christianity was outlawed.
Yes.
As it had been.
Evangelicals love to talk about this.
Yes. In Rome for a very long time. And like at this point it was the Roman Empire. And so
what was the religion that was happening there? Do you know?
Like a polytheistic religion.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So after possibly Judaism, I think polytheism. Yeah.
Yes.
There's like all of this really interesting stuff that like I could talk about forever with like polytheism and like stuff like that in Rome, but I will not do that.
Hold it back for another episode.
But
for the Christmas episode.
For the Christmas episode where I talk about my one class on Christianity that somehow made me an expert to talk about this on a podcast. But so
I think that's the premise of podcasts.
Yeah.
Actually.
Thank God for my ADD and my impeccable memory for like absolutely useless information. So Constantine.
Constantine. I feel like we have said like 7 possible alternative titles for this episode. Big Jesus, Little Jesus. So Constantine.
So Constantine was the first Christian emperor, and he was actually not Christian. His mother was Christian, and that is where the cross is held, whatever Constantine's mom's name is. And I don't remember.
Wait, what do you mean where the cross is held?
The cross.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like Jesus' cross.
Oh, you mean like the literal cross?
Yeah, they have like pieces of the cross and the King of the Jews sign. Sorry, that was unclear.
Okay. That is wild.
So that's in his...
That can't be real, right?
I don't know. It looks real.
I mean, I guess if the Colosseum is still standing, like maybe some sticks could be preserved.
Yeah, they also supposedly have boards from the manger at another church, Santa Maria
Shut the
Maggiore.
front door.
Yeah. What? That like has been like pretty debunked, but they have it like on display at a church.
See, I grew up like knowing that there was like the Holy Grail sounds so bonkers. And what you're describing to me sounds like the Holy Grail. I'm like, says who?
What's it called? The like King of the Jews sign is dated back and like has been like pretty because even at the time it was such an important like object.
Yeah.
Has been pretty heavily like tracked since its like creation, that like it has been like accounted for basically since it was created.
Wow. You know, I once got into an argument with an ex-boyfriend about whether Jesus existed, and this would have been right around the time that I was falling out of my religion, but what I was struggling with was things like what you're describing, where I was like, he was a historical figure, I think.
Yeah, he was. He's like, his like existence is documented.
See, I have the same thing. I'm like, he was real, I'm pretty sure. It's like the perspective that I have on that.
Yeah. I mean, but anyway, his mom was like a devout Catholic. Constantine. Okay. Back to this, so I can just finish this stupid.
No, I want to hear this. This is very interesting.
Was the first. So she was religious, she was Christian, Constantine was not. And then he had this like big battle where he was like vastly outnumbered, and he like saw the cross in the sky, and he said like, with this sign we shall conquer.
Oh my God.
And then they supposedly, this is like, and the story goes, they won this battle, and then Constantine made the national religion of the Roman Empire Christianity.
I had no idea Constantine's significance. Like, I knew he was important, but I did not know the story.
Yeah, and so what that really signified was, like, the power switch in Christianity and, like, really religion in general. Or, like, monotheistic religions in general. From being about, like, poor people finding solidarity and, like, community to it being about power. And then
So it was capitalism.
Yes.
Essentially.
And so then you really saw the shift from it being a religion that was primarily about that to Christianity really being the driving factor in the feudal system and telling serfs to work as hard as they could, basically until they died, knowing that they would go to heaven if they lived a good life. And the only way they could live a good life was to, like, serve these, like, religious leaders that were, like, in charge of areas. And then you saw the same thing happen again with the Industrial Revolution, which was how they got many Catholic workers to work in, like, horrible conditions.
Wow.
So, like, Constantine really, like, shifted Christianity to be what was, like, a community to a capitalist religion.
Wow. That is so interesting because I don't know if you do, but I often joke about the Protestant work ethic that is, like, imbued in this area of the country, this area being New England, and there is very much an expectation that you will just be working and you'll be working all the time. It's sort of funny to me that, like, this millennial stereotype about how, like, we're all overworked because we are is, like, new. That's sort of how it's presented in a lot of the discourse. But if you're from this part of the country, it's, like, very common. Like, the expectation is that you are working really hard all the time and, like, you always need to be working. So that is just very interesting to hear that because, like, that's how my family is. And I think that's how, like, everyone's family is that, you know, that's from around here or is, like, very Christian still. It's like there is no concept of leisure. Unless it's like at the holidays, and even then it's not about you relaxing, it's about your religious experience. I don't know, I'm sort of like rambling here, but it's like that is so interesting to hear that it has happened before because it feels new still.
Yeah, no, it's not new. What was the fall of the Roman Empire? 460 AD, so it was before that. So
what does this mean? I'm just like perplexed. I'm like, why is everyone trying to make me work? I don't want to work. I just want to sleep. Gosh.
Yeah, so you can thank Constantine.
Thanks, Nia.
For monetizing religion.
It makes me think about that song by Something Corporate a little bit differently. Constantine's the name of the song. Do you know which one? It's
a little bit.
10 minutes long. Yeah, it was one of those opuses that us emo kids really loved.
See, anytime I think of Constantine, I just think of, I took like AP World History.
Oh, I didn't. I took A-Push.
But there was this like song that like we learned, and it was like, Istanbul, not Constantine.
Oh, we listened to that too.
Yeah.
Yes. No, wait. Sorry. I know what you're talking about. I know that song. We listened to, what's his name? Alexander Polk? Andrew Polk? What was that president?
I don't know. I also took A-Push.
5440 or Fight, that guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll cut this out. So we're dumb.
I got a 2 on the A-Push exam. It was the only one.
5, bitch. I got a 5.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was like one of my like huge claims to fame for myself in high school. I was very proud of myself. I still am.
Yeah, we got $100 for every AP exam that we passed, except for APUSH for some reason.
Oh, that's weird. You got paid to pass your tests?
Yeah, the classes were free.
I had to pay to take the test.
Yeah, our classes were free, and we got paid if we passed. We got a $100 check for every AP exam that we passed.
That's wild.
We were like part of a grant.
I only took 2 AP classes because we moved. I was very sad. I like wanted to take all AP, but
yeah, I took mostly AP classes because I got paid to take.
I would too. Jesus, if they paid me, I would have fucking taken them all. I would have made them let me take them. But in any event,
it's really my favorite like party story.
Tale of the Roman Empire. Insofar as the gray area that we're like discussing here about like whether we believe in God and like how you navigate this in your everyday life, etc., etc. So I am always struggling because when I get to a moment where I'm like, why don't I believe in this anymore? Because I feel like there is a greater force. Everything in my kind of cells kind of makes me feel that way. That's not a very precise thing to say, but it's like I can't think of a way to say this that doesn't sound stupid, because every like cell in my body feels like it is connected to something else, and I don't know what that is. It's really difficult to verbalize, isn't it? Which I guess has been like the struggle of humanity. So let's not try to solve like that quandary here. But I don't know. But see, when I start to go down this train of thought, I start to ask myself, am I just being overly optimistic? But what I'm trying to get at is like, so I will start to get in a headspace where I'm like thinking like, oh yeah, like there's definitely a God. Like it feels like there's a God. But then I start to remember all of the like horrible experiences I had growing up, and that always cuts me down a notch. And of course, one of those things is, as you know, as we have talked about, is my experience like going through a hell house in high school.
Yes.
This is always a fun topic of conversation. So for those of you who don't know what a hell house is, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna pop that cherry right now, because a hell house is essentially a haunted house, but it is a haunted house devised by evangelicals. So, which is to say that the hell house literally it includes hell, literal hell, as the Christians perceive of it, is the main aspect of it. And essentially, what happens is that, in my case, let's just talk about how I experienced it, because my family, we were living in South Carolina at the time. We moved there when I was in high school, and my family began attending a very small church, and we, like other small churches, would sometimes attend larger events hosted by other churches, bigger churches, more people. And so this other church nearby was operating a hell house, and the small church that we were attending decided to bring the youth group there. And the youth group at this church was like 4 of us, 5 of us, probably some like 12-year-olds and 11-year-olds in there who wouldn't technically be involved in a young adult program or a youth group program. In any event, there's like 5 of us, a couple kids my age, like 1 older, a couple younger, and I don't know what we're walking into. I think it's going to be a haunted house, like as you would typically conceive of one. So we pull up at this church building, and we get out, and I think I remember that there's some like flashing lights coming out of some windows. There's some more typical Halloweenish fall decorations scattered about, and we go inside. And we find ourselves walking through a narrative, not unlike a murder mystery sort of experience. So you go into one room, and a sketch happens in front of you. And as is often the case in this part of the country, being South Carolina, there's a lot of investment into this spectacular religious performance. So, you've got lights turning on and off. You've got really intense staging. And mind you, you're in a room about the size of like a classroom. And I remember you walk into this room, and this dramatic music starts playing, and the acting starts happening only a couple feet away from where you're sitting. And someone, I believe there was someone who was driving drunk maybe and got into a car accident in this sketch. There was definitely one that was a suicide, which is very traumatic. Like you watch them like pick up the gun, and there's a loud bang, and you're like, holy fudge, someone just shot their brains out right in front of me. Like, there's no kinder way to say that. That is literally the experience. And there's another one where a young couple who's underage are sitting in a couch in front of you with the back of the couch facing you, and then they start fooling around. And so obviously, like, they start to have sex is sort of implied. And I believe the father walks in, one of their fathers, and like, I'm pretty sure like kills them. I think remember like a shotgun.
Because it's only a sin if you get caught.
Yeah, and apparently the theme of this that I'm remembering now is like getting shot. So that one was very clear. I can't remember all of them, but those are like the most distinct memories. And you're sort of going through all this and you're like, wow, all these people are dying in very sad ways. Like, this isn't ideal. And then you get into what is quite literally a hell-elevator. We walked onto these sort of platforms after a while, and we're completely surrounded by black curtains, so you can't see anything. And I'm with my friend, and she's getting really anxious, and I'm trying to be strong because she was kind of going through a lot of stuff at the time. And so I tried to sort of like be kind of steady as she's like starting to freak out a little bit. And the floor starts shaking because we're on these like weird little razors, sort of like, you know what, like a carnival, like when you're in the cheap fun house and the floor is kind of rickety. That's like what it was like everything's kind of shaking, but it's all dark. And all of a sudden the curtains to one side of us just drop, and we are in hell, like the bad place. Like, we are like, it's like as far as you can see. I have no idea what room we were in. It could have been like an actual basement room. It was really hard to make out. There is like people in red, like dressed as demons and like slamming chains on the ground, and this really dramatic music, and like the people that we saw in all of the sketches are getting tortured right in front of us. And then there's like a Satan character who like comes up and gets within like a foot of you and is yelling at you and is like telling you like, this is where you're going, like this is where you're, whatever, you're coming to my place, I'm gonna torture you. He's like saying all this crazy shit. My friend starts sobbing, like straight, like she's sobbing. She was going through some crazy family crap. Like, it was just too much. It was like, you're going to hell. It was like, the thing about this sort of experience is that it is like irrespective of what the people that are coming to it are actually experiencing. So it's like, who knows what is going on in someone's life. Then you start screaming at them that they're going to hell after like watching all of these traumatic stories play out. And I'm kind of terrified. Like, I don't want to be like, I'm afraid they're going to like pull us into this little acting thing. Like, you never know when it's going to be like, oh, it's participation. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. So like right when you've reached your limit, they take you into the next room, and it's like, you keep going, and then you're in heaven. So you're going from this red, loud chains, like there's like fog machines screaming. All of a sudden you're in this room that's like all white, and it's like, there's a fountain. I distinctly remember the sound of like a gentle fountain, like trickling in the background, and there's like harp music, and it's very calm.
Oh my God.
And I think there might have been people dressed as angels. There's definitely someone dressed as Jesus, because he came out and told us that he loved us and that we didn't have to go to hell, and all he wants is the best for us. And they had like the very evangelical moment of like, do you want to recommit yourself to Christ, or commit yourself to Christ for the first time, which is to say, start that relationship. And that is like the point at which you become a Christian in evangelicalism, when you give your heart, you accept Jesus into your heart. And my friend at the time was just sobbing, and I was just horrified. I just remember feeling so horrified, because up until this point, and for a little while after, but at this point, I'm like very, very into it. Like, my religion makes so much sense to me, and I am like, yes, like salvation and like forgiveness and helping the poor, like a lot of the more positive aspects were really on the front of my consciousness. And I just remember being so disturbed. Like, this is a scare tactic. Like, you're literally trying to scare people into your religion. There's no other reason to be operating this than you're trying to scare someone who isn't behaving, or you're like bringing your friends who don't know what's going on. Like, what is the other context?
Yeah.
I can't think of one. And that has always stuck out in my mind. And of course, as I've mentioned this to you before, but like, I didn't know that this was a thing, like a common thing, until our college, our Catholic college. I took a modern world religions class, and the professor was very subversive, and she like did a little unit on hell houses, and we watched this YouTube video of these sorts of things, which, by the way, if you want to know what this looks like, just YouTube it, like it's up there. And I was flabbergasted, and I was like, I remember like raising my hand and being like, I went in one of these. I didn't know, and everyone turned to me, looked at me, and was like, what? Like, what? So like that sticks out to me as a flashpoint, because that really scarred me and like made me think really critically about the religion that I was participating in. Like, what is going on here that this is being condoned in the name of our faith?
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's really nothing more to even say about it than just like, that happened, and how could any reasonable person experience that and not question what the hell is going on here? So when I start to get really positive and like think like, oh, it feels like maybe this isn't a bad thing, like, because every once in a while I consider like going back to church and not ever being like the way I was, but like I toy constantly with the idea of like, can I have like a passive relationship with this? Can I have like is it possible to take the good parts and sort of make of it what I will? Like, do I have the liberty to sort of pick and choose, but in a way that isn't malicious, in a way that is like, I'm going to leave out the things that are toxic, not just the things I don't like, but like the things that are toxic. Like the idea that a hell house would be like a very reasonable way to convince someone to join your religion.
Yeah. What better way to prevent teen pregnancy?
Oh my God. Yeah. All of those scare tactics worked on me very well, to be honest. Like the like premarital sex stuff, that worked on me for a very long time. All of the scary stuff that they would tell you. I used to subscribe. So Focus on the Family was like the media company in my house, aside from Fox News. If you don't know what that is, I just urge you to look it up. They ran a magazine called Brio. I think they just restarted it. Shouts out to Brio. I used to subscribe to it thanks to my mother. My aunt subscribed to it. My aunt's like a decade and a half before I was old enough to subscribe to it. And it's a women's magazine, like a young women's magazine. So it's basically like 17 for Christians. And one of the main issues that the magazine always talked about was premarital sex. Premarital sex. It was like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Like, here are some horror stories. Don't do it. Like, they would have advice columns that would be like, my boyfriend wants to like kiss me a lot. And they would be like, that sounds like sexual impurity. Are you doing things that make him really want to kiss you because you don't want to tempt your brothers in Christ? Like,
your brothers.
Yes, that is what we called it.
What are like the horror stories of premarital sex? Like,
oh, okay. So
I had premarital sex, so my mom brought me to a hell.
So the main narrative would be, and I'm actually kind of pulling this from a young adult series that this exact company was publishing at the time. You really like this guy, and you're in a relationship, and you know you want to be intimate, and you know that he really wants to be intimate with you physically, meaning he wants to have sex with you, and you know you really love him, and you think that you'll probably be with him forever. I mean, like, things are very good, and like you guys like really love each other, you think, and so you decide that you want to connect with him on this level. And so you do. He sets it up in a romantic way, and you have sex. And of course, they never talk about the physical aspects of it or like pleasure or anything like that. And afterwards, after you lose your virginity, it's hard to explain, but you just feel like you lost a piece of yourself. And you'll never be the same again. And you'll never get that piece back. And it makes you feel kind of empty and kind of dispensable. And you're full of regret, and you realize that there's absolutely nothing else that you can do to fill that hole again.
So, like, but there is.
But like the one I just described is sort of like the key narrative that I remember hearing a lot of. It was like, you feel empty now, and you can't get that back, that piece of yourself, and what are you going to do now? Be full of regret for the rest of your life. And then, oh my God, and then you have to think about the fact that this is what they tell you, that when you do finally, because that's your goal in life, find a husband, find someone to marry you, and he asks you if you're pure, you have to tell him no, and then he won't think about you the same way because you've been with other men.
Yes.
So you'll feel empty and your husband won't respect you.
Valid. All valid points here. I see it. I see where this is coming from.
That was very much the narrative that I was sold, like, for a long time.
But see, now here would then be the appeal of being Catholic, because you could just go repent your sins.
Right? Okay, so, like, that always confuses me, right? Because,
and then you're pure again.
But that actually is also present in evangelicalism. I can't say it today, apparently. Evangelicalism? Whatever. Anyways, that is definitely, woo, this is Wine and Religion with Mary and Monica. That is very much present, but you don't confess it to a priest because a priest is not God. That is like another big differentiation.
Priests are somehow closer to God than you in Catholicism.
Yeah. For us, it's like God told you to be a pastor, but you're not closer to God necessarily. You just study his word more. It's like you're just like a better Christian, basically, I think is how I always viewed them. Like, I would never go to a pastor for forgiveness, but like advice. We kind of just treat them as therapists.
Yeah.
That's like a huge role. Like, my dad would like go to a pastor if we were like having a lot of money troubles or something and like try to seek guidance, or like with his, he went to, I'll probably edit this out, but like he like went to basically like a Christian AA that was hosted at the church. That like wasn't AA. It was like for alcohol and drugs, and it was hosted by a pastor.
Interesting.
Like, we give them the authority to do basically everything, which is crazy.
Feel like how cold my nose is.
I can see you like, oh, that is cold. Are you like, do you need something?
No.
You can have the blanket over there.
No, it's okay. My nose just gets like super cold.
No, that happens to me too. Not right now, but it happened like yesterday. I guess at the end of the day, there is no at the end of the day for this subject because it's an ongoing question for me. It's hard to get past the stage where I'm angry at the messed up things that happened to me within my religious upbringing. Like, I'm over the Hell House thing. Like, that was crazy, but that also happened 15 years ago. So why am I holding on to that now? And I do read all of these positive experiences that people have who are socially conscious and educated, and people that I really respect who have maintained or found their place within a religion, often Christianity. In my case, that's what I tend to notice the most. And I wonder, could I have that? Because there were parts of me that were very, very, very satisfied and very happy with like religion and what it brought to me. Because I was a very enthusiastic participant for like several years there. Like, it gave me a lot of satisfaction. And I would like bring friends to youth group when they wanted to come. And I would pray when I was distraught and when I was happy. And I would ask God for guidance. And there was a peace. It really gave me a sense of peace. I remember my family would be going through all of these crazy dramas, and I would sometimes be the one in my family talking to my parents and being like, things will be okay. Like, I remember like we were really, really, really broke for a little while when I think it was a freshman in high school or an 8th grader, and my parents were freaking out, and I just remember turning to them and being like, things will be okay. Things are always okay. And that weird position that I had was very much predicated on the idea that God was going to be taking care of us. And I had believed it so much that I was like, just calm down.
Right.
And there's definitely parts of me that like miss that feeling. And I don't know if that is a desire to be willfully ignorant, or if I was actually like able to, through some level of like innocence, I guess, access that belief. Because it was true. We were always fine. Like, things were not great, but like things would be fine, and they always were. I always joke to Nate that, well, I guess it's not really a joke, but when I get obsessed about my future, I will consciously after a while try to just like give it up to the universe, which is like the equivalent of giving it up to God. It's really just like another way of saying that, just like surrendering control and like accepting the fact that I don't have control over it, and things tend to fall into place when I like let go of that like death grip.
Yeah, it is interesting. It doesn't really matter like how you think about it if you like allow yourself to sort of like have like really any kind of faith, more so than like belief that, like things will be okay. Like it is like an agnostic belief, like faith or even like hopefulness in general. It's like agnostic to an extent.
I swear my nose like clogs up when I get a little anxious. It's like my body telling me not to speak or breathe.
Like your body just slowly killing you because it's embarrassed.
It's like, cut it out, shut down, force restart. Oh my god.
This is the real proof that reincarnation, or like there's like a higher being, because it wants you to just start, it wants to start fresh with you.
My body's begging for me to begin again. Oh, to be clear, we've had like one glass of wine, maybe. Like, sipped with pizza too. Okay, now I'm crying and my nose.
How modern medicine has ruined the nirvana.
Oh my god, my nose is so stuffy now.
Oh my god, you weren't joking.
And now it's because I'm laughing. It's like my sinuses just react all at once.